Welcome to the Always Better Than Yesterday podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Hartley. This podcast exists to equip and inspire your heart-centered leadership. Every week, we bring interviews with some of the greatest heart sets and mindsets on the planet. I hope the heartprint of our time spent together is that it creates new possibilities for you and all those you come into contact with. If you'd like to explore what we could make possible for you, then head to abty.co.uk/connect and book in a free 30-minute call to begin our journey together. I just want to express a huge amount of gratitude to our sponsors, Matt Media Online, an independent agency who specialise in content marketing, helping businesses get their message seen by the right audience. Matt has produced all the digital media assets for this podcast since episode 106 back in December 2020. To have Matt in your corner, head to mattmedia.online. I'd also like to thank Exhale Coffee. I have been a big fan of Exhale Coffee since meeting Alex and the team back in 2022. Exhale is the first coffee to be sourced, roasted and lab tested specifically to maximise its antioxidant and anti-inflammatory potency. An independent lab test has shown that 1 cup of Exhale coffee has the same antioxidant power as 1.8 kilos of blueberries or 55 oranges. I'm a huge fan, and Mrs. H loves the decaf, especially because she knows that Exhale use the mountain water decaffeination process, which uses only pure glacial water from the highest mountain in Mexico and no nasty chemicals. Simply head to exhalecoffee.com/ABTY for your special offer. And lastly, before I introduce this week's guest, please do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It would really help us leave a greater heartprint on this world. On episode 241, it is an honour to welcome Rob Smedley to the podcast. Rob has 25 years experience in the world of motorsport, having spent time at multiple Formula One teams, including Jordan, Ferrari and Williams. Rob is now the CEO of the Smedley Group, using Formula One technology to solve complex problems fast. We have an incredible conversation about Rob's career within Formula One, what it was like behind the scenes in Brazil 2008, and we talk about the incredible mission that Rob has with the global Karting League and his mission to democratize motorsport and to find a next world champion in the next 5 years. It's an incredible conversation and one that I'm really excited to share with you. It's episode 241 with Rob Smedley. Rob Smedley, welcome to the Always Better Than Yesterday podcast, brother. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. Thank you, Ryan. Absolute pleasure to be here and an honour as well. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you, mate. I think F1 is taking with the popularity of Drive to Survive. I think if it was about in your time, I think you'd be a fan favourite right up there with Gunter Steiner.
You reckon? Possibly, yeah. I don't know why that is, to be honest. I mean, that was always a bit of an enigma for me. Why, especially when I was working in the teams, I always seemed to be. God, that sounds terrible, doesn't it? I always seemed to be quite popular.
Yeah.
Like I'm walking, like my feet not actually touching the ground. Let's put it this way. I always found it strange that I was popular with the fans. That's a better way of putting it, isn't it?
Yeah,
So, like,
yeah.
I would go to some circuit. I would land in airports, and like there'd be like crowds of like people waiting. Maybe just hadn't had their medication that day, or like leaving the hotel, or at the circuit going into the paddock and all of that. Yeah. Which is nice, right? It gives you a good energy. I still, I go to 6-7 Grand Prix a year now. And I don't get it anything like I used to when I was in the teams, but I still get it. And it's nice.
Yeah, I think people just love authenticity, don't they? And just the way you would come across on the radio. It's just like you just clearly Rob as the engineer rather than changing who you are because of this role. Because I think sometimes at the top of elite sport, it becomes a little bit serious, doesn't it? And I think people connecting with the human being within the sport as well, particularly your relationship with Felipe as well, it was just a different level of human, I think.
Yeah, and I think sport is I'm going to say sport, but I think everything has such a strong human element to it. But especially sport is what I know, right? So I know Formula One. I've been involved with it all my life, or all my working life at least. And it's a real strong human element to it, because don't forget, at the end of the day, in any sport, and probably even more so Formula One, those sports where there's a single competitor, you know, in combat against other competitors, be that another single competitor or multiple competitors. Um, the psychology is so important, and it's so important to understand that, I'm part of, we're all part of the Formula One team, right? We're all part of this machine going forward, but at the end of the day, you got to put a guy. Unfortunately, it's still only a guy. We don't have girls yet, but you got to put a human being in the car for 2 hours on a Sunday afternoon. And as great as the car can be, and as well prepared as you can be, if that person's headspace is not if they're not in the right frame of mind, they won't deliver. Absolutely. And I think that's a real takeout for me from, not just Formula One, but from everything else that I've done in life.
Hey friends, before we dive back into the interview, I just wanted to take a quick moment and ask for your help. Did you know that only 7% of you, 7% are currently subscribed to the YouTube channel? If you are enjoying the content so far and haven't hit the subscribe button yet, now is the perfect time to do it. By subscribing, you'll stay up to date with all our latest videos and you'll become part of our fantastic community. Plus, it's entirely free and it takes just a second. Just click that red subscribe button below this video. Not only will you never miss out on our future content, but you'll also be showing your support for this channel and helping us grow. It's your way of saying, hey, I love what you're doing and I want to see more. Don't forget to ring that notification bell so you'll be the first to know when we upload a new video. So if you're one of the 93% who hasn't subscribed yet, join the 7% who already have. And let's make this community even more awesome together. Thank you for being here. Let's get back to that interview. I think what fascinates me is, when I look back, it's like, wow, you were a young guy in that job. Like, I'm kind of mid to late 30s now. And so much of this like leadership journey is a self-awareness game, right? Being able to manage those stress and pressures. And sometimes you can't really know that if you don't have an understanding of self. And I think, you being a young guy, like, how were you able to just manage that environment, the calmness? I think that's one of the things that Felipe always said about you and working with you, is that you were good because you were calm for him. I guess, how did you do that at such a young age? Like, it's one thing to try and get the best out of yourself, but like another person, it's like, well, that's another level.
Yeah, and honestly, like, if now I'm firmly, outside of the realms of being young, there's no way I would have put my 21, 22-year-old self in charge of anything. I mean, it's like it's like insane that like I got that much responsibility so early on. I don't think there's anybody else around to be able to do the jobs that they were giving me at the time, so they just went, "Yeah, he'll do." But I don't know. I think I've always, it's a really, it's if I'm going to describe it, I describe it like this: I can compartmentalize very well, and always have been able to do, between work environment and the home environment. So home is family, which is everything, and it's full of emotion, and you know there's no rational decision making, and it's kind of, we're all over the place, right? Or I am, let's say, as a human being. And work, everything is Rob the engineer. It's very methodical, it's very data driven, it's very numerical, it's very analytical. um, you know, and even dealing with it makes dealing with any situation. And I found that as soon as I started to work, really, as even when I was at university, you can kind of, boil everything down to a really rational side of your brain, and nothing kind of penetrates that. Sometimes things do penetrate it, but Most of the time, it doesn't. So you end up being what probably looks like on the exterior very calm, very organized, very able to lead, because to lead you need to be calm, right? If you're shouting and complaining at everybody and spreading negative energy, you won't be able to lead. You just simply cannot lead. People will have no respect. People will do what they're told because you are there, in inverted commas, superior in a hierarchy, but you won't actually lead, right? Leadership is a different thing to hierarchy and organization. So I probably learned quite early on that even though I was young, I was able to maintain this calm and perspective on things, right? Because at the end of the day, whether it's a Formula One race or whether it's America's Cup or Premiership or World Cup or whatever, you lose on the Sunday, you go home, nobody's died, right? Your family's still there. Put it into perspective of what you're actually achieving here. You're achieving great things, and we all achieve great things together. And that's really, really important in that environment. But that environment is not as important as the environment outside.
Hey, my friends, thank you for being with us so far. I hope you're enjoying the interview. I just wanted to take a quick moment to let you know about our signature Heartprint coaching. Our Heartprint coaching is for you if you're ready to go all in on becoming a heart-centered leader, ready to go all in on doing more of what you love, ready to see what you are capable of with support, guidance, and accountability. You're ready to go on a rapid, transformational journey that will change your life and others in as little as 3 months. Are you ready to show up with courage and share your gift with the world? Ready to start making an income and more impact by doing what you love? Ready to start leaving your legacy where those around you are left better than yesterday? In our Heartprint signature coaching, in our time together, I'll help you lead from your heart set. I'll help you develop other people and your team. I'll help you bring your heart work to the world. I'll help you start leaving a legacy and capturing examples of your impact. I will help you be someone you love, to do more of what you love, and to serve people that you love. It's an amazing opportunity for someone who's ready to go all in and be a heart-centered leader. I'll throw in loads of other bonuses, including your life languages profile, access to our Master Heart and Mind membership, and even some Always Better Than Yesterday merchandise. Head to abty.co.uk/coaching to find out more, and I look forward to connecting with you very soon. That's abty.co.uk/coaching. Here we go. Back to the interview. It's great context, isn't it? Keeps you grounded. And I like to think that you have haunted Felipe for the rest of his life. I don't think that guy can get angry without someone saying, "Felipe, baby, stay cool." Which is a terrible impression. Sorry if I offended you, but I just imagine, like, whether it be his partner or his people, he's immediately going to get told to stay cool.
Yeah, he does. I think he does get a bit of that, but I think he likes it. He likes it better than me. He brings it up more than me.
Yeah.
So, we'll be talking about something, and I might get, we're in an outside work situation, and I might be getting a little bit animated. So we were together at a Grand Prix quite recently. We were at dinner, and I might be getting a bit animated about something because we're just talking passionately now, right? We're not at work. And he'll always say, "Oh, Felipe, baby, stay cool." Shut up.
Loves it. And I've been a fan of Formula One for my entire life, and I grew up with it in the 90s, and I got the opportunity a couple of years ago to take my son to Silverstone for the first time. So we took the family to Silverstone, 2021, I think it was. It was like the day before Freedom Day. So like Silverstone was a trial event. It's like 300,000 people there. It was honestly, it blew my mind how much of a festival it was. Like, I had no idea like what it would truly be like. So I can only imagine what that's done to my son, who was 8 at the time, in terms of just his love affair with. I mean, sadly, he's a Max Verstappen fan. Like, I just have to like bear that. Like he loves
Good lad.
Max.
Good lad.
Whereas I've grown up being a Lewis fan, and yeah, so I have to bear that in with my son. But so he's enjoying Formula One life right now. But what did that kind of do? I know that you went to Silverstone with your dad very early on in your childhood. Like, what did that experience do for you? And was that the start of a love affair with your career?
Gosh, yeah. I mean, I was probably similar age to your son. Year or two older, and my dad
Mm.
took me to Silverstone, and I think it was kind of, as you would say, in being a bit of a geek, it was binary for me because it was absolutely zero. My dad. I saw my dad watching it
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
old
yeah,
cathode ray, TV,
yeah.
and I I say this, I've said this lots of times before. It just looked so dull. Like I just thought, why do you watch that nonsense? It just looks so dull. And he
That's
probably
what my
watched
wife
it
says
for
all the time.
mine too. Uh, um, and then so we went to Silverstone, and the memory. In fact, I passed. I was at Silverstone doing an event on, I think yesterday or the day before, and I passed the Luffield stand, and I went, that's the gap that I went through with my dad the very first time.
Yeah.
And everybody looked at me and were like, what? Anyway, and we went through the gap in this grandstand into the general admission
Yeah.
area,
Yeah.
and the first car that passed me was a LaRousse, and the second car that passed me was Senna in the '88 McLaren, and it just blew my mind. I mean,
Mm.
I had no idea who these people were or anything. I don't even think I'd really ever really looked at a car.
Yeah.
And the thing just blew my mind. It was just visceral. And we were
Yeah.
opposite the old what today is termed the national pits, but in them days was the pits.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I want to get across there. I want to see them. I want to be
Yeah. Yeah.
close to them. And honestly, it was. I've never felt before or after like
Mm.
that. I just needed to be close to them, and we kind of weaseled our way into the paddock. We shouldn't have been there, and I got close to them, and I just thought, my God, these things are like works of art. And I had no idea what engineering
Mm.
was, or science was, or any of this type of stuff. But it was just like from that point onwards, I thought, this is what I want to do. This is I want to be somebody who makes these cars, and I didn't even know what that meant, right?
Mm.
Do you draw them with a pencil? Do you I didn't realize the amount of engineering that goes into it. But then
Yeah.
from that point, I want to be an engineer. That's what I want to do. And it just become like a lifelong obsession with Formula One cars.
I think there's an obsession with Formula One, and then there's Ferrari. Like for anyone that's on the outside, I don't think they understand it. It looks like a religion. It almost looks like there's just another level of love for Ferrari. What was that like being on the inside of that?
Cool. Like a real honor, right? You kind of go from that kid that I just talked about, 9, 10, whatever years old,
Mm.
to thinking I want to do this, to not that many years later
Yeah,
being sat in, a
yeah,
senior manager's meeting room with Ross Brawn, Rory Byrne, Michael Schumacher,
yeah,
Rubens, and thinking, oh, it's kind of come on a bit,
yeah.
but once you get your kind of head into it, this is just another job. Um, you can't escape, even everything that we talked about before,
Yeah.
about trying to compartmentalize and keep calm. And I think that, to be honest with you, that was the reason why I had such longevity at Ferrari, because it's a place that can suck you into the emotion and the
Mm.
politics. And
Yeah.
because it never really did that with me,
Hmm.
um, for any sustained period, and especially once you learn what the cycles are at
Yeah.
Ferrari, right, which
Yeah.
I'll explain in a little bit. Once you understand all of that, it's kind of like, okay,
Mm.
here's how I'm going to deal with this. But from an exterior point of view, at times it was just nuts. I mean, the amount of emotion and love and energy that you got, and it could flip as well, right? You know, when we weren't doing well, the Tifosi had no problem, absolutely zero problem telling you that to your face in the street, right? So I've had, you know, almost physical, like bouts of physical violence, not obviously initiated by me, in the streets, where people have been, you know, had, you know, zero problem showing me how upset they were with me, and the team in general, to, you know, the absolute other side of it as well, where they put you on such a pedestal that you can do no wrong. You can't pay in restaurants, you know, you can't get about without people kind of stopping you and, like, you know, mobbing you. And it's just, honestly, it's just, you've got to kind of, when I first went there, I went through this, I guess, you know, I had this rapid rise kind of thing. And all of a sudden you're on this massive pedestal. Like I said, like you eat for free in restaurants, everybody recognizes you, you can do no wrong. You know, I was only late 20s at the time. Your feet kind of come slightly off the ground and you think, I'm great. Yeah. 3 months later, they're writing shit about you in the media. You know, nobody looks you in the eye in the team. People spit at you on the street, and you go, "What's happened? I thought it was a ledge." Yeah, 6 months later, you're back at the top, and then you get your head in it, and you're like, "Okay, this is how it goes." Right. So I've just got to be myself. I've just got to maintain the normal equilibrium, and it will just go like that. And it did. It was a 12-year ride where it just went like that. It was just up and down all the time, and you just get used to it. It's because that's people are projecting. You can't allow, you know, an external emotion to be projected onto you. You just have to kind of maintain your own equilibrium and focus on what you're there to do and what you're paid to do.
Yeah, one of the paradoxes I share with people is that they understand that they don't want to be negatively impacted by others, but I also think the other side of that coin is to be positively motivated by the others, because it's only happening because of that being present, which on any other given day, like you said, when it's taken away, it removes it. So it makes your confidence or your motivation conditional based on the external, right? And I don't think people quite understand that nuance, is that they're two sides of the same coin, and it's both taking you away from just that inner calm and presence and performance, I guess.
100% it is. 100% it is. You can't, you know, like when you do great things, I'm always kind of like, I view work life as like IT, right? Where you're never great. You just hit the target. So nobody talks about IT until they get into work in the morning and the computer won't turn on, right? And then IT is the worst thing in the world. When everything works perfectly, when everything is absolutely seamless,
that's what's
nobody
expected,
cares.
right? You're doing your job.
Totally expected. So, I think all work life is pretty much like that, right? So, you know, when from an external point of view, people kind of look at you and go, "Oh, what a great thing you've done," or "What a great team you've built," or "business you've built," or, you know, "Fantastic that you've won world champion." It's just, you're just doing what's expected. So, you know, I think I have this thing in my mind where you've got to just keep raising the bar. And it does make you slightly obsessive, but you keep raising the bar so yourself and your team or your organization is never quite good enough. And you don't have to convey that in a negative way, but you just have to say, okay, today we achieved great things, guys. Brilliant. We should all be happy. But tomorrow we need to do better, right? And that kind of keeps the whole thing grounded as well. So when there's an external force, if you like, that are telling you that everything's brilliant and, you know, it's all fantastic, you don't let that, you know, shift your equilibrium from where you actually should be. And it's the same on the negative side, exactly as you just said.
So your partnership with Felipe, driver, race engineer, is it 11 victories in total?
Oh, I don't know. They're pots and pans to me, Brian. They really are. I have no interest in them. You know, whatever. They were nice in the moment. You know, I think I enjoyed the moment absolutely, but I can't tell you pole positions, fastest laps, world championships, at Ferrari, all this. They're just numbers.
Love that. For most Formula One fans, they know all about Brazil 2008.
Yes.
For those that are listening to someone from the Formula One arena for the first time, what's the significance of Brazil 2008?
Well, do you know what? Despite everything that I have just told you about, this kind of very analytical approach, what I can say to you is this: in Brazil 2008, that was the first time and the last that I have cried like there's been real emotional at work. And it wasn't anything to do with the World Championship. I look back on it and understand it now. It wasn't anything to do with the fact that we lost. People always say he won. He was world champion for 20 seconds, and then he wasn't, and all the rest of it. That's just nonsense. Like, the World Championship is decided when the last car crosses the checkered flag, and that was Lewis in this case, or Timo, or whoever it was. So yeah, we weren't world championships. Lewis was. The guy with the most points at the end of the season deserves to win the world championship. Lewis deserved to win the world championship. I think for me, the emotion was because you probably, it was the first time with my car I'd been in such a tight world championship battle. And you do compartmentalize everything and just try to be as analytical and work as hard as you can and make the people around you work as hard as they can to achieve your goals. And it does have an emotional stress. There is an emotional stress that comes with that. And kind of, I guess what I'd done all throughout 2008 was just box that up and said, put it over there, because it's not going to help, right? It's not going to help. It's not going to help. It's not going to help. And actually, at the end of the race, I think whether we'd won or lost the World Championship, I would have had the same emotion, because I'd kind of had this pent up emotion. Not that I even knew about it. It wasn't something that I knew subconsciously about. But when it came out, honestly, I took myself off to like a little secret place in the Sao Paulo paddock, and I cried for about 2 hours. It was a really, really strange experience for me. And I was like, what am I crying for? And my wife wasn't there, actually, because our kids were young. She used to travel with me quite a lot. And I was calling her, and she was like, "What's wrong with you?" Like, I was like, "I don't know."
But I can only imagine, I don't know how many races were on the calendar back then, but you're talking about 20 plus race weekends, traveling around the world, the investment, the time, the energy, the personal sacrifices. You said you had family as well. Like, it's a lot to bear, isn't it, for that final lap moment? In just such dramatic. And what makes it even more heart wrenching is Felipe on the radio. He's in front of his home fans. He's a Brazilian in Brazil. This would have been a perfect dream ending, and yet the character that he showed by just showing his face and just the love and the pride that he had, like, it's just heart wrenching.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I mean, that bit, definitely, I didn't feel a great deal of emotion. I felt very proud of the way that he acted. When you see your pal acting like that in anything that they do, to show such humility, and really magnanimous in spirit. That to me was I think that you saw him becoming a man that day, definitely, because when he joined us in 2006, he was still the kid that I'd met when I was at Jordan's factory in 2003 or whatever it was. Still this like kind of chirpy little chappy and happy-go-lucky and like whatever. And he really kind of, over those years, those 2-3 years in Ferrari, he grew up a lot, an awful lot, and it was just really a proud moment to see that and see how far we'd come as a team, as a group, right? From somebody who probably wasn't, it wasn't clear whether or not he was going to keep his job at the end of 2006, to almost within a point winning the world championship 3 years later. Incredible journey, really, really incredible.
I could spend all day talking to you about Formula One, but there are other things that I want to make sure that come through this conversation, particularly what you're doing now with your TKZ. But there's a bit in the middle where you went and worked with Formula One in a director of data role. And my previous life, I used to be the head of organizational development for a UK police service. So very familiar with the idea of like data analytics, provision of data, decision making, strategy, and all that sort of stuff. Like the amount of data that is available at the fingertips of people in Formula One these days. I guess the question I specifically have that relates to corporate is that in policing, so many of the senior leaders would get data paralysis. There'd be so much data that they actually never got to a point of using it, whether they would be challenging it, questioning the methodology of it, or not making data paralysis, right? I guess for you, how do you see the use of data and the abundance of information as a way of shaping and informing strategic direction decisions without the paralysis side of things?
Well, it's a really good question, Ryan, and it's something that I do a lot of work with bigger organizations, bigger corporates now, and almost all of them because Formula One, because in Formula One data is so prevalent. We get a lot of people coming and saying, "Oh, show our business," and I'm talking about big banks. I'm talking about FTSE 100 and Fortune 500 companies here that will come to us and say, "Can you help us with our data strategy?" The first question always is, "What's your objective?" And these are boards of these companies that we sometimes talk, and they go, "I don't know." Well, the objective is to have a data strategy. I say, no. Data is just a means to an end. It's just a way of informing your organization about something that is going to help you make better decisions. And I think once you kind of frame that for them,
Yes.
you can help them to build their data strategy. So people think of the output or the organic objective is data. It's not. The organic output or the required output is insights, right? Not data. Data is just an input to an output, which is insight. So give me faster insights into my business to help me make better decisions and improve my business, right? So in Formula One, whether that is true for any other business, it's particularly true for Formula One, right? Use data from cars, from the tracks, from the weather, from the tire manufacturer, metadata, use all of that, right? Drive that through some analytical system and give me fast insights. So when a safety car comes out, right, and I have 2-3 seconds as the gatekeeper of that pit wall to make a decision and call a car in or not, give me better insights to help me able to do that. Because I, as a human being, as brilliant as we all are in Formula One, we're not able to assimilate 70 things at once, right? So just give me an insight that helps me make that decision. And that's exactly the same in other in any other walk of in any other business sector, if you like. It's exactly the same. And people get so confused about this. They're like, "Oh my God, we've got a real big data problem here." You haven't. You've got an analytical problem, right? Think about what you're trying to achieve. Think about what insight you need. And there won't be many, right? For any business, there's not many. I don't need to sit there in front of a dashboard with like 1,000 numbers on it because I can't assimilate that, right? We're not able to do that as humans. Give me the 3, 4, 5 maximum things that help me to run my business. And that's the way we make such impact with the businesses that we go into. You can kind of leave them and they're like, yeah, like we know we're on the path now. We know what we need to do. And actually, this is so simple, right? Big data is just let the computer deal with big data, right? You as a human being need to deal with about 4 or 5 insights. So you need, the ways of storing and cleaning the data and, purging it and then putting it through an analytical system and then giving you as a human decision maker something simple. And it's, honestly, it's the same in any business as it is in Formula One.
Yeah, and I think last year it was well documented that Ferrari didn't make the best strategic decision making, live in the
Hmm.
middle of the races. Do you think that's like then when because I'm imagining all teams have got access to a wealth of data and these models. So do you think that then those strategy calls then come down to the human aspects of that decision making?
Yeah, I mean, look, unless Ferrari have gone significantly backwards on tools since, on analytical tools since I was there, the tools are good enough to make decisions. It then comes down to your decision making process,
Yeah.
right? Um, so the old adage, right? A bad workman always blames his tool. The tools are good enough to give you the insight of the decision that you need to make. When you've got either, you know, we just got to be really frank about it. When you've got the person who's making those decisions who is not competent enough,
Mm,
in that moment to make those decisions, or alternatively, there's a long and convoluted chain of command,
mm,
where you've got people involved in the decision making that don't need to be involved in that decision making. You will lose out to your competitors. Again, it's the same in Formula One. It's the same in any other business. And I don't know really what was happening, on the pit wall in Ferrari. It's clear that they were making, incredibly bad decisions at times. It was embarrassing for them. It was
mm.
absolutely embarrassing for them for a team of that stature and size. Um, but whatever it was, I don't think that they were failed by their insights. I think they were failed by their decision making process as an organization,
Yeah.
and that's probably the second part that you got to get right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you got to get the analytical and the insight parts right, and then you've got to empower the right people in your organization to make decisions. Not every decision in my business now has to come to me as CEO. We give people the right tools, we empower them to make decisions, and we allow them to make mistakes. More importantly, right? Because if
Right.
you always say, if every time I'm kind of sweeping up after my senior leadership team and they're sweeping up after their management team, I'm saying, don't make that mistake. You never learn. Make your mistakes. I was
Yeah.
allowed to
Yeah.
make mistakes when I was young. You've
Yeah.
got to make mistakes because there's got to be a culture of failing fast. Either as an organization or as an individual, fail fast, learn quicker.
Well, that's it, isn't it? It's learning, and I guess my last question on the data perspective is that I think 5-6 years ago the Chiefs Council, so all of the chiefs for UK police services, they were given a book. It's a red book. It's by a guy called Matthew Saidi. It's called Black Box Thinking. So every chief
Yeah.
constable went back to their forces, telling their organisational development departments, "We want a culture of learning. We want a culture of innovation." And you think, all right, do you really know what you're asking for? And I think Formula One is from the outside at least, it looks like it lives and breathes learning, innovation at the forefront of data analytics, innovation, improvement. And I guess rather than I'm making an enemy of UK police service here, and I don't mean to because there's some great work. But how do we create a culture of genuine learning, improvement, data insights without just paying lip service to it?
Because there's two things really. It's always on, right? Um, so again, we go and help businesses with building innovation strategies, right? And when you look at it, one of the first things that I will say to a leadership team or chief executive within a business, the way that you're doing innovation now, you do it from just after lunch on a Friday, right? You do it from you do it from like 2 till 4 on a Friday, and then people get a bit sleepy and go home, right? You can't do that. It's
Yeah.
like anything. It's like you know a sustainability charter or an education charter
Mm.
or a gender diversity charter. It's got to live within the fabric of your business, right?
Yeah.
And the only way you'll get it to live within the fabric of your business is by creating it as a culture, right? So one of the central tenets of creating innovation as a culture within any business is that, okay, let's put two things. Let's put process in place, right? So that there's a way that people are going to have great ideas, and we're capturing all of that. And then there is some, you can have your innovation committees and steering committees and all the rest of it, but let's make sure that there is a whole process where people who have great ideas, they get captured, and the best ideas on merit will actually get turned into reality within this business and make our organization better. Whatever our KPIs are, whether that's money, whether that's marketability, whether that's making faster Formula One cars, right? Whatever our KPIs are, let's do things that people are always going to put their hands up. And then you've got to have a culture where people are allowed to put their hands up, right? So you've got to remove all the blockers. You can't have something where, if I'm sat here, I don't know when I'm going to have a great idea. Recently, never. But I don't know, at some point I will. And I need to be able to go to my organization and say, actually, I think I've just had something that might be the kernel of a good idea. You never have a fully formed idea, but you have a good idea, which is something different. And you've got to have an organization where that can happen. You've got to have the process in place to be able to do it. And you've got to have the culture where people are allowed to do it. You can't be, oh, that's a rubbish idea. We tried that in 1983 and it didn't work because of, whatever. And I used to get that when I was a young lad, in the first Formula One teams that I worked in. We tried that in the 80s. Well, it's not the 80s, is it? So let's try it now, and I think if you can do those two, and it's not simple, right? It's not, Formula One it lives and breathes innovation, because if somebody puts down and goes, I've got a good idea, right, and the middle manager goes, yeah, we're not interested in that, and 3 months later or 2 months later, you're losing time and positions in Formula One races and championships, that the blockers will soon get found out.
And one of my perspectives. One of my perspectives is that, like, exactly what you just said. It's not something of what we do, 2 o'clock on a Friday. It's not something about what we do. It's an expression of who we are. And I think if you can get that kind of, I call it a heart set, which is that kind of deeper than the intellect. It's an expression of our identity. Like, in some way, there's an association between we are the type of people who are innovative, or we're pushing the boundaries, or, and if you go and look at any of the Formula One careers pages, they will all have some form of, this is who we are. Either we're in pursuit of excellence, or we're an innovative organization. There's something attached to their identity that the innovation serves to be an expression rather than just an activity.
Yeah, that is so true. Whatever their tenet, or however they express it as a mission statement, it is absolutely true. In my business now, we have something which is called continuous improvement. So every day you should be continuously improving. And if you can manage to do, you won't do that by just keep repeating the same thing. And that's hard to build that culture in a new business. You've got to give people the breadth and the latitude and the breathing space to be able to do that. But yeah, it has to be something which is always on. You can't do it for, we do that on a Wednesdays because, we haven't got much else to do. Because otherwise people get, if it's not absolutely part of the fabric of your business, people are just consumed with their day job and they forget about it. It's like sustainability or something like that. Yeah, I can do that, but it's going to slow me down here. No, it's part of the fabric of what we do. Yeah, and that has to be a cultural thing that is top down.
Yeah. Talking about your business, I absolutely love what you're doing with Total Karting. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, it started off as a way to give back, because I wanted to do something that give back to the community. But it's now, it's now transformed into something which is much bigger, and we have a huge mission here, which is that we want to get, over the next 5 years. So we've been operating in the UK. It's electric karts. It's a different way of going racing, with the main objective in everything is to get the cost down, right? To get the cost down, break down the barriers and get more kids involved. We run it as a proof of concept in the UK. I'm happy that it works in the background. We've been productionizing this, and then we want to roll it out globally and basically make significant changes to the grassroots of motorsport. And we want to get more kids in driving seats, and we want to use that to drive more kids towards education. So it's about a participation thing, right? Going out to not only in the UK, but globally, and in particular, getting to non-traditional markets, so into GCC countries, into India, into Africa, giving all these kids a chance to actually, taste the grassroots of what is the pinnacle. When you get to the pinnacle, it's Formula One, and using that to drive them into STEM education. And you know what? I've got some really clever people that work with me, and all of the research that we've done, we have 1,000 times higher probability, that's even a thing, of finding champions, just because of the size of the market that we'll go to, the size of the market that we can create. Sorry. By lowering the barriers, we can get 1,000 times more kids involved in this sport. So we have huge ambitions, that in 5 years' time, we want to globally, we want to have touch points with 1 million kids. We want to have this in every corner of the earth. And in 10 years' time, I would like to have a champion somewhere, that's come through that system, a champion from an atypical motorsports background, which is not privileged, which is not, your standard family that always manages to get to the top in motorsport. We want somebody from a less privileged background. We want somebody from, a different ethnic minority background. We want females. We work tirelessly with organizations that are trying to push females into motorsport, and into the driving seat. And then, there'll be a tiny percentage of those kids that become professional racing drivers. But if we can actually, better their lives in some way and give them some level of augmented education over and above what they do at school, and turn them on to, science, technology, engineering, maths, and they become great engineers or scientists or, researchers, great. It's kind of going to be the lifelong mission for the next 10 years.
Yeah, I love the particular STEM focus that you have with your drivers as well, going through the STEM program, because I think last year I interviewed a guy called Dr. John DiMartini, and he was talking about when he was in a therapy setting, a lady's son was running around. She said, sorry about him, he's got ADD and he can't focus, he can't concentrate. And John was like, well, I don't believe that to be true. What's he really interested in? What's he really passionate about? And she's like, trains. And he's like, all right. So he starts talking about trains to the kid, and the kid sits still. He can focus. He's got attention. And what John said to the mum is like, your kid has not got, any issues concentrating. He's just not the school aren't creating the environment for him to actually be interested. If you can funnel their education through his interest, and that's what John was able to show with the kid, is like he taught him, taught the child everything he needed to know by going to a train station in Austin or somewhere like that, somewhere deep in Texas. They learned the languages that the containers had come from. They learned the speed and the time and the distance through the train journeys. So, and I that's what really kind of came to mind when I was hearing you talk about the STEM, which is just like, how great is it that kids get to learn about science, technology, and all that through the overarching context of something that they may be passionate about?
Yeah, no, it's nuts. I mean, it's something that I saw. I mean, the response to it we've had, I mean, is crazy, because it's something that it was just a notion in my head, and I, sometimes I have these ideas and think, might work, might not. Let's try it.
Yeah.
But it was always, I saw with my kids that they used to be, when they were less embarrassed of me, they're older now, so they're completely embarrassed of me, but they used to be like, into like cars and karts and Formula One and stuff like that. And, when they were doing probably year 8, 9, whatever year that is in old money, first, second years of like secondary school. So I was like teaching them like physics but through the context of Formula One cars and rally cars and stuff like that. And they were like, I get it, right? And so I thought, okay, if it works for my kids, it's going to work for any kids. And that's why we put, into Total Karting Zero Global Karting League, which is the umbrella brand. That's why I brought this contextualized STEM into it. And we actually launched it at the start of this year. So we built the platform and we then, developed all the content with guys in my team, in my business who are, Formula One engineers. So it was all about, using Formula One physics or Formula One environment to teach kids about all of these great things from 5-year-old up to 16-year-old. And we said, okay, let's see how it goes. And I thought, I bet there's a warm reception to this. I bet they like it because, it'll be a bit bumpy at the start, like anything new is, right? We're all human, and if it change, we don't like change, right? But I thought, let's see, it's something new to this community. Honestly, it was like that. The parents coming. I don't go to every event. I don't have the unfortunately don't have the time.
Yeah.
But I think I went to the first or second event and the parents were just like, we love it. It is brilliant. Like, it's like, son, daughter, whoever it was, like they have no interest in science or technology, zero interest in math. And all of a sudden they sat there because they're part of this cool little tribe now as well.
Yes.
Oh, the STEM modules arriving today, and they all get on with it. They all do it. And they're all in competition between themselves. And then you hear them talking about it. I went to an event. It was probably a month or two back, and the kids were coming up to me and telling me about STEM. So it's not the parents anymore; it's the kids now. And you think, how great, if like,
because they learn about what they're interested in.
Of course they do.
Yeah.
It's contextualized in what they want to learn. So when you have some middle-aged bore-off stood at the front of a class like me, telling them about, something to do with science or technology, they're like, great. Not really,
how fast can I go?
Of my... Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Boring. How fast can I go?
Yeah,
and you see it with Formula One drivers. In fact, that was another catalyst for me. Is that Formula One drivers, when you explain, you have to explain very technical concepts to F1 drivers, because Formula One cars are very, very technical, and you have to explain very technical concepts to them. But when you do it in a way that they can understand and in their language and contextualized with what they actually want to know and the bits of information that they're craving, they get it straight away. Honestly, these are guys that don't have engineering degrees, probably stopped school at 12, 13 in some of their cases, but get it because it's contextualized and they're interested. So, why not do that with 1 million kids worldwide?
Yeah, I love that. I'm super respectful of your time. I want to take my son to one of these practice days. I've been in touch with your team. They said that you can come along and do one of the practice sessions. So what might we expect if I bring him along to one of the practice days? What might I, as a parent, get to see my son do, and how might other listeners be able to get involved?
So it's we've got products, if you like. We've got sessions for every age and experience level. So we get kids who've never sat in karts before, and we'll take them on something that we call Ready to Race. So there's a program, Ready to Race. I think it's a 3-step program done over like 3 Saturday mornings or something like that. And you have to safely take these kids through from never having sat in, because these are racing karts, right? From 6-year-old upwards. So they're doing, once we get them like fully turned up, they're doing proper speeds. But you want to do that safely. You want to take them through that journey so that the kids feel really comfortable and really confident, and they get out and like, yeah, I want to go in a race now. And then we take them, they can pass into like a rookie series. And if they're good enough, the kids then progress up into a national series. And obviously, what I was chatting about before is, when we've joined up with all of these different countries, then there'll be a regional series, eventually a world championship. So it's a very credible path at a significantly reduced cost. But I think what, parents would see for the first time is, we've got great staff there. I'm really blessed with having a super group of people that run that part of the business. And they're super passionate about it, because we're trying to change an industry, right? We're not running a kart championship. They tell me now we're changing an industry here, Rob, and I'm like, brilliant, yeah, go for it.
Love it.
They feel that ownership. But you've got great staff who will look after the kids, who'll take them through every step of the way, coaching them on and off the track. And the kids just love it. Whenever I go there, I always ask one question, which is, they force me to hand out the medals at the end of the events that I go there.
Yeah.
And the one question that I always ask the kids is, who wants to come back? And they're all like, all the hands going up, and you see all the parents going, "Oh God, another weekend away."
Yeah.
But like, all the kids love it.
You got a talent program, your talent identification. Is that like what are the core aspects of talent? Is it skill, attitude? What are you looking for in terms of talent?
Well, we can, when there's the talent ID program, what that does is we just use the type of analytics. We were talking before about insight. So we use the type of analytics that we use in Formula One. So we ingest data from timing system and cards, and then we spin that up into, we then produce a load of different metrics about, how good the driver is on the track and how well he compares against the perfect lap, if you like. We use simulation techniques. And that tells us that first base of how good is this kid? Like, what's the natural talent of this young girl or boy? But then to go on from that, that gives us the first numerical output. But then what we really start to look at is, what capacity does that kid have when they're driving a car? So it's about intelligence, right? It's also about how much do you want it, right? Because if you take Formula One drivers, they've all got natural talent, but the greats are the ones that just really, really want it, right? So I'll cite two examples, and I know you're a Lewis fan, but Lewis Hamilton, he's an 8 times world champion. Max Verstappen, have you ever seen anybody who hates losing as much as Max Verstappen? He's like all people who are consumed by continuous improvements and excellence. It's not that we love winning. I don't, like I said before, pots and pans and all the rest of it. It's not that I love winning. Just I really dislike losing. Yeah, I dislike that feeling of losing, and that's the same what you see with Max Verstappen. Same with Fernando Alonso. So I've named 3 drivers there who are great, and they're great because of this, not because they're particularly faster or better than other drivers on the grid, but just because they want it so much, and they are so motivated, and they work so hard at it. Right? It is a relentless pursuit of excellence.
Yeah,
and that's what we look for in young kids.
I love that.
Yeah,
that's powerful. You said 8-time world champion. Was that a slip of the tongue, or was that a held belief?
Ooh, a held belief. So so my team has just put me on Instagram. I've had Instagram for years, but I was just sharing it between the only people who I had as my, I don't know, are they friends or followers? It's followers sounds a bit like I'm creating a cult. Anyway, I had my family and the Massa family. So I had like 10 followers or whatever you call them.
Yeah.
And the only reason I had the Massa family was because the older Massa brother one day got hold of my phone and thought it was hilarious that I only had my mum, my dad, my sister, and my wife. Oh well, and he put him and his brother on, and his mum and his dad. So then my team said, okay, now is the time, Rob. We need you to get a bit more savvy with social media. So we got a great PR company working with us, Revolution, and they said, right, get yourself on Instagram. So I was like, well, I've got Instagram. So I opened it up, I think, last week, and we're being a bit irreverent. I've already got like, I think, nearly 1,000 followers. So we're going to do like a 1,000, like say, is this the biggest number ever on Instagram and stuff? And I can't remember what I was telling you about Instagram, but I was telling you, because actually I put something about being at Silverstone yesterday, and this guy comes back to me and says, "Oh, Rob, would you? I'd really appreciate it." Somebody read it to me this morning. I don't really know how to open the app, but anyway, they said somebody read it to me this morning and said, "Rob, could you please help Lewis win his 8th World Championship?" I was like, okay, you might have got me mixed up with some other Rob Smedley that works at Mercedes. I would love to help Lewis win his 8th World Championship, by the way.
Yeah.
If you're listening, Lewis, give us a ring.
Yeah. Well, I've steered away from asking you whether think it'll be taken down to a 6th. I thought I'd steer away from that legal case ongoing at the moment. But
thank you.
I thought I wouldn't do that to you. Let's keep it pure. But my friend, I'm grateful for your time. I'm grateful. I'd love to kind of sit around a campfire and share stories and hear of all your time in Formula 1. I'm sure you've got many, but that would not be a good use of your time today. You've got many things to do. So there's a word I have here at Always Better Than Yesterday. It's called Heartprint. And for me, it's like a word that represents the ripple effect, the possibilities we create in other people's lives. I guess the legacy is probably the one word for it. So, Rob, I'd just like you just to take a moment just to really consider what you think your heartprint will be when you come to the end of your time with motorsport.
I hope it's this. I hope my legacy is this. I hope I have played a small part, however small it is, in making motorsport more accessible and more open to, a much more diverse community, and allowing kids from atypical backgrounds, be that engineering or marketing or drivers, to dream bigger.
I love that. My friend, thank you so much. I'd be honoured if you leave us a final thought from your good self.
My thought is this. It's always uphill, right? And when you get pushed down, which you will, regardless of who you are and what position you are in life, get back up, right? You've only got pushed down because people are either worried about what you're doing or scared of you or fearful of their own abilities. So get back up and get on with it. Honestly, tomorrow's easier.
Class. I appreciate you, brother.
All right. Thanks, mate. Thank you very much.
Thank you for making it to the end of the interview here on YouTube. I hope that our time spent together has left you a little bit better than before you push play. Before you go anywhere, please leave a comment down below. Some of your key reflections, your key takeaways. I love hearing from you and what this conversation has inspired in you. Let me know what you're going to do as a result of this conversation. I will be back next Wednesday where I will share another inspiring guest. To make sure that you don't miss that, please do subscribe, hit the bell, and you will be notified as soon as it goes live. If you're curious to know how I, through Always Better Than Yesterday, can serve you, your team, your organisation, please do visit alwaysbetterthanyesterday.com, and it will be my honour and privilege to help you in any way I can. Keep leading, my friends. I've been Ryan Hartley, host of the Always Better Than Yesterday podcast here on YouTube. Always love.